Hello, family. Ooh, do we have some shit to get into today? Ugh. Hello, family. Welcome. Hello, family. It's things are wild right now. Hello, family. Hello. I think you already know. We have to talk about Ye. We have to talk about Elon Musk, Herschel Walker, the midterms, Iran, some of our own bullshit. Hello, family. Lord. Hello, family. Hello. I am so upset. I'm upset. And I know it's been a couple of weeks, so I want to say thank you for your patience. I know that I've sort of, been all over the place with work, but I am doing some sort of political landscaping for some big projects that I'm really excited about. And as I mentioned, you're going to get tired of me. I want to say this, and, I'll bring up everything. So if there are things that you want to talk about, hit me in the comments. But I want to start out with something I just want to get out of the way, which is Kanye West and his comments. I think it was this morning, somebody over the 405 dropped a banner that said, Kanye is right about the Jews. And if you don't know what's going on, Ye has made some really awful comments about Jewish people that are anti-Semitic in nature, and there's a lot that's coming out of that. So for one, I want to say unequivocally, anti-Semitism and anti-Black racism are so historically connected. Both populations have at different times been treated as canaries in the metaphorical mind in terms of what kinds of fascism and racism that we're dealing with. And I'm going to zoom out of Kanye because I think it's really important, and really connect him to Herschel Walker for a moment, if you will. Because the brand of anti-Semitism that Kanye is articulating and supporting is not unique. It's actually existed for a very, very long time. And why suddenly, what is the utility of a Kanye and a Herschel Walker to a bigoted GOP? Kanye West and Herschel Walker are exactly the kind of black man and black person that the GOP and bigoted far-right groups desire, right? They have cultural cachet, but only in specific ways, right? Their cultural cachet is around entertainment, athletics and entertainment. Those are historically the spaces in which black people and black men particularly have been able to participate. One of the only few spaces. They both will tout particular kinds of bigoted beliefs that many white supremacists who are bound by a kind of civility won't necessarily say out loud. So they can get these black men to say things that they themselves believe but would not say in public because it would not benefit them economically. They are not considered smart, right? So again, you have two black men in Kanye West and Herschel Walker that are precisely the kind of black men that the GOP loves. Athletic or entertainment focused, not known for their intelligence, right? So they're known for other things. Easily manipulated, have cultural cachet. I don't want to reduce them to simply saying that they're puppets. I think it's more complicated than that. But what I will say is, why do something yourself when you can get somebody else to do it, bear all the blame, all the brunt force, all the negative words. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that Kanye does not believe what he's saying around anti-Semitism. That is not that is not the function of anti-Semitism. I happen to know, and I think we all know, and somebody brought up mental illness, I'm about to bring this up. I think we all know that this is so much bigger than a singular individual, and that the destruction of that individual does nothing for the ending and eradication of anti-Semitism. That being said, I do think it's very important to neutralize particularly dangerous voices, and I think that's a multi-pronged approach. I do want to say this is something that is a personal gripe of mine that I have been frustrated about for many, many years, and it has a lot to do with my own mother and my own personal experience. And in society, we have this huge push on mental health, right? Like that's been happening for years, and we talk about it as if it's something that we sort of addressed. Mental illness is something different, and we actually don't talk about that at all. It's still very much stigmatized. It's still very much a secret. So we have the kinds of sexy issues, which of course are dangerous and horrible, but those are considered, the socially acceptable ones are anxiety and depression. But when we are dealing with things like bipolar or schizoaffective disorder or schizophrenia or mania, we actually don't know how to talk about it. And so right now, I think there is a very serious gap that is being exploited on where does mania end and bigotry begin. And we're seeing that with so much of Ye. And I'll tell you this, my mother experiences pretty severe mania. And at different times throughout my childhood, they were coming for us. They were after us. And for many people who are in mania or who suffer from different kinds of mental illness, they are the protagonist in their story. Everything is happening to them and only to them, and they are the central figure in their particular story and narrative, which can be really hard and detrimental for anyone in their lives. My mother never they was some weird government body, not a group of people. And not based on a old, generational belief on a kind of, cabal or, central power of an elite body of people. So I think that there's a tension point and the complications of accountability when we're looking at where does mania end and bigotry begin. I am 100% opposed to the belief that having a kind of mental illness makes you X. I don't believe that that's the case. I think that, I think that's nonsense. Nobody becomes a bigot or, anti-Semitic because they're having a mental illness episode. That's actually not realistic. That being said, I do think this is a moment where, as a society, what do we do and how do we respond to somebody that is touting it, who has massive cultural and social significance, that is now being used as a weapon against us. And I'm not going to bother us with the nonsense of this is what's wrong with celebrity culture, of course, okay? But naming a thing that is very obvious without looking at particular solutions around it does nothing. Here's what I think in terms of, So again, I just want to reemphasize that Herschel Walker and Kanye West have a lot in common because they are both easily recognizable. They're the kind of black person and black men particularly that the GOP and historically bigoted institutions desire, right? Somebody who can do their bidding, somebody who can say the things that they can't say or don't feel comfortable saying out loud, somebody they can follow. And again, a banner drops today over the 405, and it is a kind of hate speech, but it's coded, right? Honk if you agree with, honk if you agree. Here we go. Honk if you know Kanye is right about the Jews. So now what it does is it offers people a way out. So there's plausible deniability. Well, I don't believe this, but I support Kanye West. I support West. So we have to sort of unfocus on the particular individual and look at anti-Semitism as a whole, because of course everything is a byproduct of this moment that we're in, and we're seeing a massive rise in anti-Semitism, a massive rise in racism and field attacks, a rolling back of rights, and even the intentions behind them of around trans people, voting rights of black people. So everything is under attack. We have the midterms coming up. This is a really fucked up moment. It's like, there's no other way to say it. And, you know, I had my own little share of hiccups. I'm sure you all know that there was some fuss around, you know, Candace Owens and Black Lives Matter. And I will address much of this in the book, but I do want to say this. It breaks my heart that there was enough failures in leadership regarding that movement, that so many of those narratives of corruption or theft or grifting are pervasive. I want to be clear that those narratives would exist regardless, but it breaks my heart that there isn't a strong enough pushback against it from people who know, and just know that I take that very seriously. I'm working on it, and unfortunately or fortunately, it requires some personal sharing and a larger narrative for nuance. And so I am addressing it in the book. I do have a long-term strategy and plan, and I want to say very clearly, I loved that movement before 2018. After that, it wasn't really what it was anymore. The core people who made that movement possible had moved on. Nobody expected there to be a huge turnaround in 2020 where people were suddenly like, wow, we want to listen and we want to hear. And much of that leadership had moved on, and the concentration of power was really small and not transparent. And when those accusations were initially brought up in 2021, they were not fought back against enough by the very few people who knew, who had the information to do it. And it's been an incredibly painful experience. So I want to say, for those of you who are wondering, where there was an abdication of responsibility from leadership, and I am doing my part to make sure that is addressed. But it does require a longer story, and it is addressed in the book. And it's unfortunate that there are people out there who, take advantage of that and know how to. But I feel like the thing that offends me the most, my Sula just acting nuts if you hear it in the background, is when we ask people to listen to us. So me, I'll use, as a thinker or activist, whatever you want to, whatever we classify this as. I think it's such a huge ask to say, please listen to what I have to say and please trust what I have to say. And our job at the end of the day is to be the cover for you, in exchange, to be the cover for you so that you know what to say when Uncle Bob starts talking about this movement and grifting and whatever at the dinner table. And I saw a massive failure of responsibility for that. And that's not something I will ever take lightly or forget. And so what you're seeing with these different kinds of propaganda coming out, and of course it goes up and it comes down and it goes up and comes down, is what happens when there isn't a robust enough voice to push back against it. So I wanted to name that and my intentions around that, and that I am paying it. I see it all, and you all will have a fuller story when that book comes out. And I know it's a bit of a ways off, January 2024, so it's just a couple of months out in my head, because the manuscript is due on January 2023, and it's been hell to write. So it's been hell to write. But I just wanted to name that, and now let's go back to this. What we do in this particular moment. So we've named that. If we zoom out for a second, Herschel Walker and Kanye West actually have a lot in common, because they are both the kind of black masculinity that the GOP loves, which is do everything that I say what I'm afraid to, allow plausible deniability for me, and let me use you as a racehorse. You're not considered particularly smart. You're not considered, but you have massive cultural cachet. You are Black, and I can hide behind, behind your Blackness and ensure that I never have to. At the end of the day, Kanye can be tossed aside just like this. Just like this. And that's the thing that actually kind of bothers me the most is like there aren't tons, but I think of a Glenn Greenwald, or I think of a Ye, or any people who used to have balanced politics. And Glenn Greenwald was, I would argue, was really far on the left in terms of protecting rights and actually taking the Democratic Party to task. And the thing with people who forfeit their beliefs to engage in a party or a belief system that is merely using them, I'm like, you will be the first to go. Once a certain bar is passed, line is crossed, and it will happen. Glenn Greenwald is a gay man. He will be one of the first to go. Candace Owens will be one of the first to go. Kanye West will be one of the first to go, and it's so unfortunate to me, the short-sightedness of that. And I don't say that with very much sympathy, because my sympathies are with Jewish people. My sympathies are with people, with leftists, with Black folks who are in and working towards liberation, or who are just trying to survive. That's where my sympathy goes. My sympathy is not going to be for people who are just cutting corners and choosing a kind of ego-driven belief system that is not affirming to life or rights or trans people or Black people or Jewish people. So I do want to name, there's something else that came up that I think is really important. And I appreciate, I saw some comments there just acknowledging some of the Black Lives Matter stuff, and I appreciate it. It's been a pretty a difficult time, and the difficulty is not in what's being thrown, right? When we decided to make a movement, it's not going to be all love, and for so many years it's not. I don't care about the throwing of things. It breaks my heart, that we weren't enough of a shield, and I'm using the collective we here. I wanted to be more of one, and trust me, I'm doing my part to make sure that the platform that we have grows enough so that these things, so that I can and we can be that for each other. Something else that came up that matters. When we are being attacked, we collectively, and in this case, I want to say that the attack has been primarily on Jewish people in terms of the kind of anti-Semitism that we are seeing being increasingly normalized. I saw a comment that came onto Twitter. It was Sarah Silverman, and she basically made a tweet that was like, "Why?" I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, why are Jews only talking about Jews? Why is this not trending? And a lot of folks took that personally, and a lot of Black folks felt personally attacked, and that was partly because Black people were talking about it so much. And this is what I want to say about internet bubbles and how we have to be really careful. When people say things like that, I think there was a post around something like that with Busy Phillips as well. Why is nobody talking about the Jews? I think we have to be very, very careful about those kinds of, those sort of zero-sum assumptions. Because what it does is reveal how insular and white your world is. Everything on on every social media platform, and you all know it. I don't frequent them, but I definitely get my news every day, and I might not engage all the time, but I am reading a lot of what's happening. My entire timelines across multiple platforms were just endless. This is fucked up. Anti-Semitism is ours to fight back against them. And my timelines are full of different kinds of people, mostly people who care about things, and that there's a wide range of that. And it was just we have to be very careful about this, because I think every person has felt this before. Every trans person has felt this before. Every Black person, every Muslim person. I'm sure there are many Iranians that are experiencing this in this moment right now. I know so many indigenous people can feel like we all feel this at some point, that we are the only ones who care, only the people who are most directly impacted care about a particular thing. We have to be very, very careful about what that does to our spirits, about what kinds of falsehoods that puts out into the world. You have to actively seek out truth. It is just not there when we log on. We have to actively look for different kinds of realities. I promise you, if you look for it, it is there. It is there. Whenever I am feeling that kind of frustration, and I know what that feels like, believe me, remember that the movement that I was in for years, nobody gave a shit about. And you know what? It didn't matter, because we cared, and we found people who cared. And that frustration, it is real. It comes from a real place, and it's almost a sense of betrayal, but you have to be careful about how much time you give it. And you have to actively look and seek out different ways, because I'm telling you this, I went into a movement that was for Black people because I am Black. Yes, it started that way. But identity can and should be our entry point. It cannot be our exit point into living, into really being fully alive, because we are all connected in this. We actually are. Whether we want to be or not, we are stuck with each other. And I happen to think that that's a really good thing. And so you have to go out of your bubble. You have to actually burst that shit to find something else that is there. And instead of making these kinds of comments that are sort of sweeping indictments or judgments, put out something in the world that is useful. That is our responsibility as thinkers, as people who care, even as people with platforms. And it doesn't matter whether your platform is big or small. It doesn't. It does when it's big, to be honest. But even when our platforms are small, because it's always been, massive changes have always started with small things, right? It always has. So I read those things. I was talking with with my homeboy, and he's Jewish, and and he's white, and he was like, my entire timeline was like, this is fucked. This is and he's a person who is a lover of people, and he's got a mixed bag of who he follows and what he's interested in, but I'm telling you, whatever it is, whatever truth you are looking for, if it's a convenient enough one, you will find it. And so we have to be very principled about how we approach this kind of shit. Anytime that I'm frustrated, and I'm frustrated often, I try to put something that is affirmative. Anytime that I'm angry or feel betrayed, and I'm sure you can imagine what the past couple of years has been like. I mean, I don't have relationships with so many people I spent years of my life with, because we just, on principle, I found a lot of missing integrity at times, and I don't have judgments around that outside of I can no longer engage in this way. But I'm not going to shit on anything or anyone. I think that there is something to be said about how so much of activism is about failing in public. So much of activism is about failing in public, and you have to have the stomach for that. And I think even in this moment where I'm saying, these particular comments were not useful, why does nobody talk about this or whatever, they come from a real place. And so our job is to try to take that and then turn it into a useful thing, simply because it is not in that particular framing useful at all. And that's just me with, over, a decade of sort of research and organizing experience. It's just, we have to be really mindful, especially when there's so much at stake. And I know that some of our favorite lines are like, now more than ever. Like, that's the That's the activist version of in a world, right? In a world. But those particular things, it leads to more infighting, and that's actually what happened. I don't know where, why didn't you see this? Where was this or whatever? And then, another person comes in with a pretty sizable platform, Rex Chapman or whatever, who seems like a really great guy. It's like, well, why does this have to be a black thing? And that's simply because that is how it shows a lack of awareness of how power structures work. You have a black man who is actively touting anti-Semitic beliefs. Let me tell you something about black people. Nobody takes more seriously what black people are doing than black people. Our literal survival is incumbent on it, and what kinds of judgments or beliefs surround or circulate a particular black person has implications on all of us. I dare say that's true of Jewish people and many oppressed people. But the mechanisms around how that works with black people is very specific to anti-black racism. And so trust me when I say that nobody loves black people more than black people, and nobody takes more seriously what black people do, including our fuck-ups, than black people. We are 100% aware of the implications of particular of the actions of West and Herschel, Candace, really everybody, because it's our job to be aware. Our survival is incumbent on that kind of awareness. And me personally, I take what happens personally. I also take anti-Semitism very personally, and I have learned to move myself to take what is happening to other people as seriously as what is happening to me. Because if they're coming for you tonight, they'll be coming for me tomorrow, and that is the general rule of oppression and also of liberation. It means that we are connected. So what was missing in that is a power analysis. So this is let's bring a little more lightness to it, because honestly, I will say, on the left, we are whiling a little bit. And I don't know if these are our folks, right? Let me just tell you this thing I saw online. It's pretty funny. Some regular person just writes a tweet that says, my husband and I get up and we have coffee and we talk for hours every morning, and I love it. And what's wrong with people on Twitter where they were like, oh, must be nice, capitalism doesn't let me do that, or there was a, I'm not able to do this, so this is oppression, or you must be part of the 1%. I'm like, when did conversation and coffee become part of the 1%? When did that happen? It wasn't one or two people. It was literally a breakdown, so much so that this person felt compelled to come on and say, hey, I'm not a rich person. I just really this is what we do. It's nice. And I just thought, we are fucking missing the plot. This is, what's wrong with us? Must be nice to be part of the 1%. Must be nice to engage in coffee that's not fair trade. It was wild. It was out of control. And I was just like, is conversation oppressive now? Is conversation now part of the 1%? We have, and this is what happens when we don't have a power analysis to measure out what it is that we actually, a moment of irritation, for example. You might be irritated that somebody's happy and in love, and that's your shit to deal with. I'm just saying, if that offends you, you probably need a little more in your life, and that's fine, but bitch, go work on that. Leave those happy people alone. There's only 5 left, So, that shit really had me rolling. I was like, this is out of control. And I think everybody on this app has seen or experienced some version of this, where it's it's not that serious. This is not a political issue. This is just literally somebody living their life. And so I really do think we're losing the plot, and it's leading to a lot of frustration, where we are leveraging language around power structures, and then putting that and then superimposing that on shit that it does not apply to. They're just happy and in love. God damn, my ninja. Just let people live their lives. So my point is, you know, power analysis is very, very important to understanding why things happen the way that they do. And it can be onerous at first to think, okay, how does this apply to this power analysis? But it is a great filtration plant to figure out what's my shit, what's not my shit, how do we fight this thing? It actually makes it easier to understand it breaks things down to the sum of its parts, essentially. So I'm concerned about the specific brand of anti-Semitism that Kanye is normalizing, allowing more, and in a very dangerous way, right? Because it's mixed with culture, it's mixed with cultural relevancy. He's somebody that people can hide behind. And meanwhile, here's the rub. Candace Owens, who was the first person to say so-and-so is a grifter and this and that, her husband is the CEO of Parler. Parler is the failed social media platform. And now Kanye is apparently in talks to purchase this failing app. And the obviousness of that particular overlap is really interesting to me. And I wish that she would use her powers for good. But, you know, it is what it is. And again, she is merely relating to the Black Lives Matter stuff, exploiting failures in leadership that I personally witnessed and saw and that you all endured as well, mixed in with a lot of weird conspiracy-driven, you know, hateful kinds of rhetoric. Like they're just taking this money and shoveling them into trans things. And, you know, it's really maneuvering, trying to tap multiple buttons on oppression, on racist and transphobic, homophobic beliefs. And you know, of course, I didn't engage. I know what my particular job is on this, and I will write something, I hope, that is transformative and lends to real truth. That being said, I just think it's so transparent. All of this is so fucking transparent. Even these particular attacks around Jewish folks, and again, many people across the right are white supremacists, bigots, and they're very open about it, but many more are not open about their anti-Semitism. And so all of them can hide behind Kanye West. They don't have to say it, they can just bring Kanye onto the platform, right? And that's how that works. I suppose I should mention Elon Musk, since there's a unholy trinity between Musk, Trump, and Ye. And I'll just say this. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that Elon Musk is dangerous because he's an evil billionaire genius. And actually, he's dangerous not because he's an evil billionaire genius. He's dangerous because he's a regular guy with too much power. It's just that simple. And he's playing a really interesting game of, you know, sort of dog whistling or, using a kind of symbolism to sort of tap the kinds of lizard interests of the right. And then in long form interviews, he's very nuanced and insightful around what his particular beliefs are. And so you're seeing this sort of flip-flopping and playing of both sides, which I think is really interesting. But again, he's not dangerous because he's a genius. He's no more a genius than Kanye West is a genius. He's dangerous because he's a regular-ass dude with way too much fucking power. And that is the problem with fame and with absurd concentrations of wealth, like what a billionaire is that you can influence whatever you want. And in the event that this Twitter thing goes through, and it's looking like it will at this point, he's already mentioned getting rid of 75% of the staff. We have to be eyes wide open with what's happening in the next couple of years. At this moment, it looks like Dems are going to lose their particular spots, a couple of seats here, which means, and we're not going to be able to gain any traction and ground until 2024. So again, I want to reiterate a couple of things because we're getting to the point where we got to end. Kanye West and Herschel Walker need to be looked at as one and the same right now, in that they are precisely the kind of black man that the GOP loves. Cultural relevance, but not necessarily considered the most intelligent, highly, easily manipulated, and they can hide behind these black men. And with Kanye West particularly, they can hide behind his blackness to shield and code their own anti-Semitism. So if Kanye says it, it's him. It allows for plausible deniability, and it makes me sad. But that doesn't mean that they're less responsible. For the kinds of hate. Again, when people are dropping banners on the 405 that says "honk if you agree," honk if you know Kanye is right about the Jews. I take that very fucking personally. That's a disgusting thing. And if you have Jewish people in your life, if you know Jewish folks, you let them know. You let them know you have their back. You let them know that that's your shit too. Again, anti-Semitism and anti-black racism are not necessarily positioned in the same place in terms of a power analysis, but they're both one and the same in terms of how they speak to a kind of racist, theocratic, fascist sort of authoritarian system or beliefs. And that is really where we're at. I mean, it's these two things are like the kind of lightning rod issues that tell you where a country is. The treatment of these particular populations and the rhetoric that comes out around it. So that's one. Two, I think the left has lost the fucking plot sometimes. It is not... People on Twitter lost their minds because a person said that she got to sit down with her husband for a couple hours in the morning and have coffee, and that was amazing. And everyone said, "Must be nice. You got to be part of the 1%. Let a bitch be in love. Like, just leave her alone. This is not a situation where we need to put on and superimpose a power analysis. That's very silly. We could do better than that." I acknowledge some of the failures of Black Lives Matter to push back against the particular narratives, racist as they are, but narratives nonetheless of around grifting and corruption, and there were failures of leadership on that. And I have a multi-year plan and addressing that mainly that will start really with the book. It's all there, and I'm sorry that it's gotten this far. I'm happy that the movement existed. I think it did a lot of incredible work. And I think, to me, that is worth defending. And that's the other thing that I want to do in that, is what was done really well. The tensions between mental health and mental illness, we talk about one, we ignore the other. And, Kanye, I think, is a great moment for us to interrogate, where does mania end and just straight up bigotry begin? And lastly, I want to just again re-up the fact that a couple of folks like, I don't know, Busy Phillips, I don't know who that is really, or Silverman made some comments about, why is nobody talking about the Jews? Only Jewish people are talking about Jewish issues, and I'm sorry, that's just simply not the case. And that all that does is tell me that you live in a very serious bubble. And here's the thing: bubbles can be burst. You just got to pop that shit and look for what is real. When we want to affirm a different set of beliefs, we have to look and actively seek out truth. Nobody takes what is happening with Black people more seriously than Black people, and I promise you that Black folks have been talking about anti-Semitism, that will continue to talk about anti-Semitism, fight them, because we understand that we are two, in so many ways, it's two sides of the same token. So, and I want to end really briefly with Iran. That's owed its own, follow-up, but I am so moved by the courage and fortitude, and I feel very heartbroken that that's what it takes. It takes death and murder and that the U.S. has played an active role in creating the kind of political turmoil that led to a sort of hyper-religious takeover that directly impacts women and the men who love them, let alone, you know, all the everybody else who lives there. So this one's for the girls, and I'm really moved. And you know, at the end of the day, we're only truly alive when we have agency and we have choice. And sometimes it's a compulsion. Courage is a sort of compulsion, but I think that we should take great courage from what we're seeing, and know that if women and girls are willing to risk that much there, then here should be a fucking cakewalk. And I don't mean to minimize what we've got going on. I don't. We're headed in a similar direction. But there's so much happening. I mean, I just NPR just, you know, did a profile on a friend of mine who's doing incredible doula work in Charlotte. Everybody's trying, and you have to actively go and seek out what is true, and who is doing incredible work, because nobody's stopping. Nobody's stopping. So instead of spreading myths about nobody cares about this thing except for me or except for people like this, I would love to do that. Black folks would love to do that, but we know it's simply not true. It is a feeling that we all experience as marginalized and oppressed people at certain moments in our lives. And our job is to burst the bubble that surrounds us and find out and seek out real truth. And if it isn't true for whatever reason in your reality, in your life, then fucking make it true. That's what we do. That is what we do. But this finger pointing thing, it does not work, and it's not true. So, I love you all very much. I have no idea what's going to be in these in the caption. I just realized we covered a lot. But I hope that this is finding you in a balanced place. I read this article in the New York Times that was talking about how our personalities have changed under the pandemic, and I think a lot of that is true. I think there's a lot of breakups and a lot of fights, a lot of impatience, and so be gentle, and be slow. There's nothing wrong with that, I think we're in a bit of a growing pain, but I promise you, I'm working on some shit that I think is going to be really amazing, and I'm doing it because I think that you're worth it. And so there'll be some announcements, but there's going to be a news culture politics thing that's happening 3 days a week. So you'll literally never ever hear the end of me. I'll just never stop talking. You'll be so tired of me that you'll probably have to move on with your life. But I'm telling you that part of the issue is that we're not in the fight as much as we deserve to be, and so I want to bring us into the fight. Anyway, I love you all very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for your patience. I can be more consistent moving forward. But shit's coming. Some of it's good, some of it's hard, but I think we are going to be fine. No matter what. I believe that. As long as we keep embodying what being fully alive is to the best of our ability, I think we'll be all right. Anyway, I love you all very much, and I'll see you all so soon. You mean a lot to me. All right. Take care.